Have you ever stopped to think about how the chaos around us can impact our relationships? Every crisis, every misunderstanding seems to pull at the roots of our bonds. But what if you could, in fact, remain calm, centered, and at peace, no matter what happens around you? Stoicism, an ancient philosophy, not only promises a tranquil mind amidst the storm, but also offers a powerful strategy to transform our relationships while keeping inner peace intact. Imagine being able to handle those high-tension moments where social pressure and raw emotions make everything harder, and more. Being able to do so with wisdom, compassion, and without losing your individuality in the process. The secret lies in Stoic practices, which teach us that our reaction to the world is what truly defines our inner state. It's not the words of others or the conflicts that arise in life, but what we do with those situations that truly matters. Today, you'll discover how the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus can be applied to your daily life, transforming the way you interact with others and yourself. You'll learn to navigate emotional challenges without losing peace, develop powerful emotional intelligence, and strengthen your emotional bonds, all through a simple yet transformative practice. Prepare for a deep dive into the art of staying calm, balanced, and authentic, even when everything around you is in chaos. What would your life be like if you held the key to unlocking healthier, more lasting relationships? Share in the comments how you think you could apply Stoicism to your own relationships. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any transformative content like this. How Stoicism can transform your relationships in times of crisis. Life, as we know, is not made of stable moments. It constantly challenges us, and that includes the relationships we nurture throughout our journey. In times of crisis, whether personal, social, or emotional, pressure seems ever present. But what if I told you that Stoicism, a philosophy dating back to ancient Greek philosophers, could be the key to transforming how you deal with others during turbulent times? This may sound distant, even overly philosophical, but imagine for a moment that true inner peace doesn't depend on external circumstances, but on how we choose to respond to them. Stoicism teaches that peace comes from within, and when the external storm is inevitable, what remains is our ability to control our thoughts and reactions. Now think about how challenges in relationships amplify when we let emotions take over. It's easy to succumb to the heat of conflict, especially when a crisis brings deep insecurities and fears to the surface. Stoicism offers a unique perspective. True strength lies in controlling our mind and, consequently, our reactions. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our opinion of them." In other words, it's often our own mind that fuels problems in our relationships, feeding resentment or hasty judgments. But by developing the ability to avoid impulsive reactions, we can act with calm and wisdom, preventing a crisis from turning into a chasm of misunderstandings. Have you ever reflected on how you could handle others differently during a crisis? Imagine, for example, responding with silence when everything around you is in chaos. Not a passive silence, but one that comes from a mind at peace, immune to the noise of anger and frustration. Stoicism invites us to reflect on our values and control our reactions, regardless of the circumstances. This allows us not only to deal better with others, but also to cultivate healthy relationships that endure tough times. By practicing detachment and introspection, we become better able to separate our personal emotions from external situations, creating space for more balanced and authentic responses. The art of reacting with calm, Stoicism as a response to interpersonal conflicts. In any relationship, differences and conflicts are inevitable. But how do you react when everything seems to be falling apart around you? Often, in arguments, our first reaction is to respond with the same emotional intensity we're receiving. Stoicism, however, teaches that true wisdom lies in the art of not reacting impulsively. When we're caught in the heat of the moment, what we most want is to give an answer, as if that would restore balance. But does an impulsive response really solve anything? On the contrary, it often worsens the situation, bringing more noise and misunderstandings. Stoicism, in turn, suggests that strategic silence can be more powerful than any word. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that it's not about what happens to you, but what you do with what happens to you. This concept of not reacting goes against our natural tendency to give an immediate response, especially when we feel attacked or misunderstood. But Stoicism invites us to pause, breathe, and reflect before acting. The moment we can take emotional distance from a situation, we can respond more thoughtfully and wisely, avoiding impulses that only fuel tension. How does this apply to a relationship? Imagine, for example, a moment of disagreement where your first instinct is to defend your point of view at all costs. Instead, applying Stoic philosophy can be the key to a more harmonious solution. By taking a moment to breathe and center yourself, you gain clarity and self-control, creating the space needed for more assertive and compassionate communication. But how can we apply this wisdom in practice, especially when conflict is at its peak? Here, Stoicism offers a powerful tool: inner reflection. When faced with a challenge, the first step is to ask yourself, is this reaction really necessary? Is what I'm feeling a response to the situation itself, or a projection of my own emotions? By taking this pause, you allow your mind to calm, making way for a more authentic and truthful response. Instead of reacting impulsively and destructively, you act with emotional control, preserving your inner peace while allowing the other person to feel heard and respected. Controlling emotions in relationships, Stoicism, and emotional intelligence. Amid the natural ups and downs of relationships, the true key to harmony lies in controlling our own emotions. When you can manage what you feel, rather than being controlled by your feelings, the quality of your relationships tends to improve significantly. Stoicism provides a roadmap to achieve this skill, teaching that true peace comes from the ability to observe emotions without being dominated by them. After all, we all know how intense emotions can be in moments of conflict. Yet, Stoicism reminds us that we have the power to choose how to react to those emotions, and this is where true emotional intelligence comes in. Emotional intelligence is not just about understanding others, but about recognizing and managing your own feelings in a healthy way. When faced with an emotionally charged situation, like a disagreement with a partner, for example, Stoicism teaches us to step back. Instead of reacting impulsively with anger or frustration, Stoic philosophy suggests we first observe what's happening within us. The philosopher Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it." By adopting this perspective, we can handle emotions more balancedly without letting them govern our actions or words. Applying emotional intelligence in Stoicism involves something simple yet powerful: detachment. This doesn't mean being indifferent or insensitive, but rather seeing the situation more clearly and objectively, without emotions clouding judgment. By doing so, you give yourself the chance to respond with more wisdom and less reactivity. If your partner or friend is out of control, your calm and thoughtful reaction might be exactly what they need to return to reason. Stoicism teaches us that when we control our emotions, we also become more effective at helping others do the same, creating a virtuous cycle of understanding and harmony. This, in turn, strengthens relationships, allowing them to flourish even in adversity. Stoic wisdom: how to maintain inner peace when others are chaotic. Living in a world where human emotions seem to overflow at every corner is a constant challenge, especially when it comes to maintaining inner peace. How can we, amidst the chaos of others, preserve our own tranquility? Stoicism provides the answer, teaching us to distinguish between what is within our control and what isn't. When others are chaotic, the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the choice not to be swept away by their emotional storm. Stoic wisdom reminds us that the control we have over our inner peace is tied to our ability to respond to the world with discernment, not reactivity. The secret to maintaining inner peace when others are out of control lies in recognizing that often their behaviors have nothing to do with us. Of course, in close relationships, it can be hard not to internalize the reactions and emotions of others. However, as Stoic philosophers teach, what others think, say, or do is something we have little or no control over. True emotional freedom, then, comes from understanding that our peace doesn't depend on the behavior of those around us. If we internalize this lesson, we can learn to observe others' emotions without getting lost in them, allowing calm to remain within us regardless of external circumstances. This kind of wisdom doesn't come from indifference, but from a deep understanding of human nature and the impermanence of emotions. When others are in chaos, it's an opportunity to practice self-control. We can be like a solid rock amidst the whirlwind, knowing that the wind and waves will pass. And by maintaining our peace, we offer others a chance to find serenity as well. Instead of being swayed by criticism or confrontation, we choose the wisest and most thoughtful response. This doesn't mean a lack of empathy or love, but rather the ability to care for ourselves while also tending to the environment around us. Stoicism teaches that when we can maintain inner peace, even in chaos, we create a positive energy that can spread, calming those around us. Detachment in Stoicism: how to handle toxic relationships and maintain your peace. Dealing with toxic relationships is one of the greatest challenges many of us face in life. These relationships can drain our energy, trigger insecurities, and often pull us into a constant cycle of emotional suffering. Detachment, a core Stoic virtue, offers a powerful way to handle these situations without losing inner peace. Contrary to what many think, detachment doesn't mean indifference or coldness. It's about freeing yourself from the need to control others or depend on them for your happiness. When we can detach from others' reactions and the expectations we place on them, we find true emotional freedom. Stoic philosophers teach that what truly affects us is not others' actions or words, but how we react to them. If someone in our life is being toxic, the first question we should ask isn't, "Why are they treating me this way?" but "Why am I letting this affect me so much?" When we accept that we can't control others' behavior, we begin to understand that the only thing we truly have power over is our own reaction. Detachment, then, isn't about cutting ties or distancing ourselves from everyone who harms us, but about learning to maintain our peace, regardless of their behavior. For example, imagine you're in a relationship where the other person constantly puts you down, criticizes, and challenges your self-esteem. Stoicism teaches us not to react reactively, but to observe and reflect. What you need to remember is that no one has the power to take your peace unless you allow it. This doesn't mean you should stay in a harmful relationship, but rather that the way to handle it isn't by feeding the cycle of suffering, but by recognizing that you're solely responsible for maintaining your balance. Detachment brings the power of choice. You can decide when it's time to walk away from a relationship that no longer contributes to your well-being, but always from a place of wisdom, not anger or frustration. The power of Stoic silence: how it can improve your relationships. In an increasingly noisy world, where words are often used thoughtlessly and emotional noise seems constant, the power of silence can be revolutionary. Silence isn't merely the absence of sound. In the context of Stoicism, it's a powerful practice of self-control and reflection. Sometimes, what we need most in a relationship isn't to speak more, but to listen more and let silence create space for deeper understanding. By learning to silence the mind and reactive impulses, we can significantly improve the quality of our relationships, as silence isn't passive, it's strategic and full of wisdom. Stoicism teaches that words are often a reflection of our emotions and inner reactions, and in a moment of conflict, speaking can perpetuate the cycle of tension. Instead of responding hastily, we can choose conscious silence, which allows us to reflect before acting. When we find ourselves in a situation where communication becomes difficult or emotionally charged, silence becomes a powerful tool. It lets us observe, understand what's happening within us, and gives us the chance to respond with more wisdom instead of reacting. As Epictetus said, "I am not what happens to you. I am what I choose to be." Silence, then, becomes a deliberate choice not to be dragged into external chaos, but to remain steadfast in our inner peace. Silence is also a form of respect in relationships. Often, by giving space to the other person, you create an opportunity for them to hear themselves, understand, and calm down. This kind of silence isn't a form of withdrawal or indifference, but a way to create a safe space where emotions can be processed without the rush of judgment. This can be incredibly healing, especially when dealing with conflicts. When we practice Stoic silence, we show that before reacting, we want to understand, listen, and above all, act consciously. Silence, then, not only preserves our inner peace, but also has the power to transform the dynamics of our relationships, making them deeper, more respectful, and more balanced. Stoicism in love: how to build strong relationships without losing your individuality. When we think of love, the image that often comes to mind is of two people so deeply intertwined that they become one. However, Stoicism teaches that for a relationship to be truly healthy, each individual must maintain their own emotional, intellectual, and spiritual integrity. Stoic love doesn't demand that you lose your individuality, but that you cultivate it while sharing your life with another person. This concept may seem counterintuitive, especially in a society that often places relationships above personal identity, but it's actually the key to lasting and balanced relationships. True love, according to the Stoics, is based on mutual respect and each person's autonomy. This means that in a healthy relationship, you don't need to sacrifice your values, beliefs, or passions to please the other. On the contrary, the true strength of a relationship lies in each person's ability to remain true to themselves while sharing their life with someone else. Stoicism invites us to reflect on how we can be both passionate and whole without emotionally depending on the other for our happiness. When we are complete in our individuality, we are better able to offer the other the best of ourselves without expecting them to fill the empty spaces within us. But how, in practice, can we apply this Stoic principle in love? The first lesson is self-knowledge. We can only maintain our individuality when we know who we are, what we want, and what we need to be happy. This requires a continuous practice of inner reflection, emotional self-sufficiency, and strengthening our own identity. This doesn't mean we should be solitary or selfish, but that we must be able to be in a relationship without losing sight of who we are. When we balance our individuality with unity, we create a stronger, more genuine, and more lasting love that doesn't depend on the other's constant validation, but grows from mutual respect and commitment to each other's well-being. Why Stoicism teaches you not to depend on others' approval in your relationships. Living in constant pursuit of others' approval can be a silent prison. Yet, how many of us find ourselves trapped in this web, shaping our actions, words, and even feelings to please others? Stoicism, once again, offers a liberating perspective. For Stoic philosophers, true inner peace is only possible when we stop depending on external approval to validate our self-worth. What others think of us is, in fact, irrelevant to our well-being, and the key to healthy relationships lies in learning to fully accept ourselves without needing others' validation. Stoic wisdom teaches that when we constantly seek others' approval, we become prisoners of their opinions. This creates a vicious cycle of insecurity, as others' approval is fickle and inconsistent. Instead of anchoring ourselves in our own identity and values, we let ourselves be swayed by external expectations that often have nothing to do with what we truly need or want. The pursuit of approval can negatively impact our relationships, as we end up sacrificing our own needs and desires to please others. Stoicism, in turn, invites us to step back and reflect. What really matters is what I think of myself. And if we know our own approval is enough, we can relate to others much more freely and authentically. When we practice detachment from the need for external approval, we become more authentic and, paradoxically, more connected to others. Instead of worrying about how others perceive us, we can give and receive love genuinely, without manipulation or expectations. This doesn't mean being insensitive to others' needs or ignoring the impact of our actions. It means, rather, that our worth isn't in others' hands. This creates a safe space where both we and our partners, friends, or family can be who they truly are, without masks or fears. Stoicism teaches that true emotional freedom comes from within, from our ability to be enough for ourselves regardless of others' opinions. The connection between resilience and relationships, how Stoicism teaches you to overcome challenges with love. Relationships are built on a foundation of love, respect, and understanding. But like any solid structure, they also face tests of endurance. In these tests, resilience becomes an indispensable quality. Stoicism teaches that instead of avoiding or fleeing difficulties, we should face them with courage and wisdom. In a relationship, challenges are inevitable. Disagreements, life changes, and even personal crises can test the strength of the bond. But true love isn't the one that dissolves in the face of adversity, but the one that, even in the storm, remains steadfast and transformative. This is what resilience, cultivated by Stoic philosophy, allows us to do. At the heart of resilience is the ability to maintain serenity in tough times and learn from adversity rather than be consumed by it. Stoicism teaches that adversity is a disguised opportunity, a chance to grow, evolve, and strengthen our relationships. When we practice self-control and reflection during a crisis, we're not only preserving our inner peace, but also showing the other that we can weather life's storms together. This builds mutual trust, where both know that even in difficulties, love and respect remain unshaken. Resilience, then, isn't just a personal skill, but a quality that strengthens the bond between two people, helping them overcome challenges together. But how, in practice, can we apply Stoic resilience in our relationships? The first step is to change our perception of challenges. Instead of seeing them as negative or a threat to the relationship, we can understand that they're an opportunity to learn more about ourselves and the other. When we face a crisis with a Stoic mindset, we choose to respond with patience, empathy, and thoughtful action rather than impulsive reactions or despair. This creates an environment where conflict resolution not only solves the problem, but also strengthens the bond, bringing shared learning. Resilience teaches us that the greatest tests in a relationship aren't obstacles to avoid, but opportunities for growth, where true love deepens as challenges are overcome. What Stoicism says about self-love and its influence on personal relationships. Self-love is the foundation of a healthy relationship, both with ourselves and others. However, the pursuit of self-love can be misunderstood, as if it were an act of selfishness or egocentrism. Stoicism, however, teaches that true self-love isn't about putting yourself above others or isolating yourself emotionally, but about developing a relationship of respect, care, and integrity with yourself. Only when we can love ourselves truly and unconditionally can we offer others the genuine love they deserve. Stoicism reminds us that our happiness and well-being don't depend on external validations, but on how we perceive ourselves internally. This self-knowledge and self-acceptance are fundamental to a healthy and mature love. When self-love is cultivated according to Stoic principles, it becomes a powerful force that shapes our interactions with the world. The practice of self-care and self-understanding makes us more resilient, compassionate, and balanced in our relationships. By loving ourselves, we don't seek to fill an emotional void with others' validation, but become whole beings, ready to share that love altruistically and genuinely. Stoicism teaches that true self-love lies in being masters of our emotions and actions, without depending on others to confirm our worth or dignity. This self-love also reflects in how we treat others. When we know who we are and respect ourselves, we're better able to respect others. In a relationship, practicing self-love means setting healthy boundaries, being honest with ourselves and the other, and not tolerating harmful behaviors that compromise our emotional well-being. Stoicism teaches that when we truly love ourselves, we act with authenticity and respect, and this profoundly impacts relationship dynamics. Instead of depending on constant validation from a partner, for example, we can give and receive love more maturely and balancedly, creating a solid foundation for lasting and enriching relationships. Now that you know Stoic teachings about maintaining inner peace, even amidst chaos, it's time to put this wisdom into practice. Ask yourself, how can you react more consciously in your relationships? How can you cultivate calm in the face of difficulties and keep your individuality intact while strengthening bonds with those you love? Stoicism isn't just a philosophy for crises. It's a daily tool to transform how you live and connect with the world around you. If you can apply even one Stoic principle to your relationships, you'll have taken a big step toward a more balanced and emotionally healthy life. Now, more than ever, the world needs people who can handle adversity with serenity and wisdom. So, share in the comments how you'll start incorporating Stoicism into your relationships. What you learned today could be the first step toward the transformation you're seeking. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to keep learning how to master your mind and live more fully. Also, click the link in the first pinned comment. There you'll find an ebook to help you even more on this daily journey of self-knowledge and transformation.